One thing I am quite concerned about is Tom Holland's Spider-Man not appearing in a lot of Marvel content, a lot of MCU content, specifically the Marvel TV shows, chat. And I have been concerned about the way Sony has been adapting the material they own for quite some time. But to put things kind of in perspective, and it's also in regards to She-Hulk 2, chat, because apparently, this is according to the filmmakers behind She-Hulk, Spider-Man wasn't allowed to appear in Disney Plus's She-Hulk and other Marvel shows. She-Hulk attorney at law careers on Jennifer Walters, a lawyer turned superhero, and will explore the humorous highs and lows of such a complicated life. Disney Plus series has more to offer than just a clever premise, a unique hero, however. Beyond Jennifer Walters' adventures, the show is also set to include a slew of other MCU characters. On one hand, this means finally introducing some C-tier list villains in the franchise, like those confirmed in various trailers and things. And they kind of go into details about talking about how they're going to bring them back, Tim Roth's Abomination, Charlie Cox, of course, we just went over, chat. But one of the things that I think has some people disappointed, and it has me disappointed too, is the fact that Spider-Man will not be appearing in the show, which kind of would have made sense, at least before they mentioned No Way Home. But also the fact that he just won't appear in any Marvel television content. Speaking of the Direct's own Pamela Gorst, She-Hulk series creator and head writer Jessica Gao talked about the wide range of characters the writers hoped to bring into the world of the show, acknowledging that there were a lot of characters that were from the comics that we couldn't use because either a rights issue or there are a few times where it was because of Marvel. There are a lot of characters from the comics. We wanted a lot of the comics for characters for fun situations. We would bring in like a character and think of like funny reasons why they would be in legal trouble. But there were a lot of characters that were from the comics that we couldn't use either because of a rights issue or there were a few times where it was because Marvel. All they would say is they had other plans, and that's all they would tell us. And then we've tried very, very, very hard to poke and prod and get a little bit more information. Of course, they wouldn't tell us. Responding to one question in particular about certain heroes or villains being off limits, she noted that one MCU character that really bummed out a lot of the writers in our room is that we couldn't use Spider-Man because of the Sony rights issue. But I will say the one MCU character that really bummed out a lot of the writers in our room that we couldn't use was Spider-Man and anyone involved around him, like in the Spider-Man universe, because we had so many Spider-Man fans in the room. And that's what's kind of frustrating, chat, is I don't know if because of this recent deal, obviously because as we remember a few years ago, we didn't even know we were going to get a third MCU Spider-Man film. Sony's like, they're taking their fucking toys at home to play with it by themselves. And, Spider-Man 3 could have ended up being something very, very different, chat. Spider-Man No Home could have ended up something completely different than what we actually got. And it kind of goes back to my overall concern about how Sony is treating Spider-Man and his various supporting characters and the various licenses and properties that they own. Sony doesn't know what they're doing with Spider-Man or his supporting characters. In my opinion, Tom Rothman, Amy Pascal, Avi Arad, they have displayed total incompetence when it comes to creating their own separate Spider-Man-less Spider-Man-verse or Venom-verse, whatever they're calling it, chat. And honestly, they should be fired. They should be let go. There should be a shareholders meeting, people asking them, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, a lot of their successes, chat, have been because of Marvel Disney proper. There's no doubt about that, especially in regards to the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. And, just to bring up recent examples, I mean, look, we have the Venom movies, we have Morbius, chat, and although Venom has been successful, critically awful. Morbius, both a commercial and critical failure, chat. But talking about like some of the projects that they have in the works, like Madam Web sounds like absolute nonsense. And really, it's a Back to the Future ripoff. For people who don't know, apparently it's leaked. Apparently it's been coming out that it's going to be about Adam Scott as Ben Parker and Emma Roberts as May Parker, and they're younger versions of the character. And they're going on on a multi-dimensional, timey-wimey adventure with Madam Web, played by Dakota Johnson, in order to ensure the birth of Peter Parker Spider-Man. Chat, they got to make sure that Mary Parker front poops out that baby, chat, all right? And to me, I'm like, this, why? Nothing about that sounds interesting or fun. It's going to have multiple other spider people involved to ensure that this lady front poops out a baby, that Richard and Mary hook up, they get down, do the dirty business, and pop that kid out. I'm like, I don't need to see that. I don't need to see a story about making sure that Peter Parker is born, to ensure that the Marvel Universe, the Sony Venomverse, is saved, chat. I have a lot of concerns with that. It's just like, why? Of all the things you can do, that's the thing you want to do? And then the other side of it, the other movie, which I think we're going to be getting before Madam Web, is Kraven the Hunter. And the way that film has been described, chat, Kraven the Hunter, it was what I've told you. I think it's a really cool Spider-Man villain. I've been wanting to see him in live action for quite some time. I think he'd be a great antagonist to Spider-Man, certainly Tom Holland's Spider-Man in a future movie. Who is, for those who don't know, Kraven Hunter. He's a big game hunter that got bored of hunting animals and decided, I want to hunt humans now, specifically superhumans, and he picks Spider-Man. He's a psychopath. He hunts people. That's what he wants to do. His most famous story, Kraven's Last Hunt, is him having up to here and just saying, fuck it. I'm going to capture Spider-Man, drug him, bury him alive for 2 weeks, pretend to be Spider-Man, prove I'm a better Spider-Man than he is, and then after that I'm satiated, I'm going to put a shotgun in my mouth and blow my brains out. Like that's Kraven the Hunter, through and through. This version, where they have Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's going to be an animal rights activist. He's going to be hunting poachers, and he's going to be a fucking vegetarian. What are you talking about? That is not the character in any capacity. It sounds like nonsense. And it's them softening who the character is. It's them not wanting to go full tilt and embracing the character's identity. Like, well, he's not going to be a villain. He's going to be an anti-hero, which Kraven is not a goddamn anti-hero. He's a psychopath that hunts people. Where are you getting all this other stuff? And again, it just shows you that Sony is willfully misunderstanding their properties just so they can formulate their own universe, set up a weirdly bastardized version of the Sinister Six to eventually fight maybe Tom Holland's Spider-Man or the 3 Spider-Mans they got, or Venom, or Tom Hardy's Venom. Like that's where it's eventually leading. And at that point, it's like, then why should I or anyone else really have any confidence in Sony with their output being what it is? Yes, like I said, Venom is very financially successful. I'm not denying that. I would never deny that. Venom is a popular character. You know, he's in the popular zeitgeist for 30 years. He's a cool design, sure. I don't think there's much to him. I don't think he's very interesting. And, you know, having seen those movies, I was very disappointed by them. Morbius, again, taking a D-list character. And yes, he's more of an anti-hero, sure. Villain turned anti-hero. But again, you just made one of the most, like all their standalone Venomverse, Spider-Man-less Spider-Man films all feel like movies from the late 90s, early 2000s. It feels like that era where we were getting shit like Spawn, like the worst of it, like Spawn, or 2003's Daredevil or Ghost Rider. That's what these movies all feel like tonally, in terms of like their characterization, their plots. Just boring or so bad that, you know, we can laugh at them. And that has me concerned. I believe that Spider-Man and Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and hey, if you want to bring them in, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, but, you know, specifically Tom Holland's Spider-Man, they should play a larger role in the MCU. And it strengthens the brand overall. And so the fact that you don't want to play ball, you don't want to put him in the She-Hulk show, you don't want to have fun of him guest starring in Daredevil or all these other properties where he would increase audience interest. The fact you don't want to do that just shows like you have no fucking clue what you're doing as a company, and you're greenlighting shit like Madam Web or Kraven the Hunter movie where you don't embrace the actual attributes of who he is. And people are saying like, well, what about Into the Spider-Verse? What about the animated film? I, to this day, feel like Sony didn't know what they had. I feel like Sony let Phil Lord and Chris Miller and the filmmakers that worked on that movie, just let them play, like, oh, animated film, whatever. Let them do what they want to do with that. And then it became a huge success, commercial, critical success, won Academy Awards and all that. And now they're like, oh, now we're going to greenlight fucking multiple movies and spin-offs and a TV show and everything, and we'll see where all that goes. I have a little concerns now, but it's frustrating because I wish this character had a grander role in the MCU because he deserves to. He deserves to, chap. And I want to see him cross over with things. It'll be fun to see him be. It's like this now. If we ever do a Spider-Man 4, does that mean we won't see like Daredevil show up since they've definitely positioned him to be more of a grounded hero, more of a street hero? It's like that's a goddamn shame. It would make sense. They both live in fucking New York. So yeah, it sucks that he won't be appearing in something like a She-Hulk show, Chad, where he could have needed legal representation. They still view him as a criminal. It would make sense. Yeah, it's a wasted opportunity.